The truth set you free. In an age of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. All right, everybody, greetings and welcome to another edition. Let me know where you are viewing from. Here we go. Welcome. We are now live on Twitch and Periscope, Twitter, and you're going to be seeing this on YouTube eventually as well. So the best way to, hey, by the way, what's going on? I am Tony D. I am your host. This is TVM Report. Veritas Machine. We're going to be doing another one of these. The best way to support the page here, if you do enjoy this content, like, comment, share, subscribe, do all those things. If you are on Twitch, viewing on Twitch, and you are not subscribed to the page, you will not be able to participate in the chat. You do need to be subscribed for that. So if you just want to watch, kick back, enjoy. I hope you like the show. This one is not going to be an easy one. This one brings me absolutely no joy whatsoever. And I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't. Today, the show is titled Tim Ballard, Underground Railroad Exposed, Part 1. Part 1 of what will be a several-part series. What we're going to do here is we're going to review some research from an excommunicated Mormon gent by the name, by the name of Lynn Packer. Now, this is a guy who was actually thrown out of the Mormon Church because he published this material that you are about to see regarding Operation Underground Railroad. And this was considered, I guess, a no-no in the Mormon Church to question or deal with somebody like Tim Ballard, who appears, and by the way, this is, I'm not making any accusations here. Okay. I am not in law enforcement. This is an op-ed. All right. Meaning this is research that I see that I find to be very credible. Very much like Hannity. That's an op-ed. What else? Tucker. They try and have some kind of stories, but it's more opinion based. So you got to understand this is commentary. I'm going over some things that I believe to be very legitimate because of the people that published it, and I have looked into them and their work at Brigham Young University in journalism, working in stories of some of the very, very big stories. And you could look up Lynn Packer and see what he has been, involved in. He was excommunicated from the Mormon Church, again, for publishing this. And why would that happen? Right? And I want to just touch on something real quick with the elders in the church when you are taking them around. Utah is the #1 state for what is called affinity fraud. Affinity fraud is when you take say a church elder with you and you try to raise money for something. And affinity fraud is just using their churchiness for your money. Okay? You understand me now? So that is what's going on. All right, and that's what we're dealing with here. So I want to unpack this for you. And we are going to get into a couple of this primarily just gives you an idea of the network. All right. So going into Lynn Packer, I find to be the best researcher for this. There are others, but Lynn Packer is by far. And he's just a guy that doesn't give a F anymore because they threw him out of the church and they fronted him off. And now he's really pissed. So what I want to do is I want to take you into some things that, some people are not going to like this. And I'm okay with that. But the proof is, not something, or the truth is not always something that you like. We're just getting started. Take it easy. It's okay. All right. Welcome. Have a seat. Grab a snack. All right. Everybody got a snack or a smoke or a drink, because this right here, this is part 10 of Lynn Packer's series. Okay, so it's part 10. He's up to part 10. This for me is part 1. And we are going to jump around some of his research in different parts. There are some other great researchers who have looked into this, and investigators. You cannot just simply look at a situation and say, okay, well, they say they help kids. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Why shouldn't we ask questions? Right? Why shouldn't we ask questions? It's very legit to ask questions. So let us move on and listen to Mr. Lynn Packer unpack Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad.
Ballard's secret plan to monetize and proselytize his involvement with Operation Underground Railroad, with new information about Gesno Marty and Russell Ballard. Later in this report, a special section on Ballard's biggest fundraising lie, finding Gardy, and Ballard's claim, repeated often over the years, we are closer than ever. In addition, also later in this report, prayer, psychics, and torture in the search for Gardy. A suspect in Gardy Marty's December 2009 disappearance was tortured by Haitian police in a failed attempt to find Gardy's whereabouts. A psychic who claimed to know where Gardy was being held as a labor slave is also connected to a Tim Ballard O.U.R. nonprofit that failed to register with the IRS. But first, Ballard's secret plan. He unveiled it at a clandestine meeting in August 2019. It was a plan so secret that he asked the 10 or so people attending to sign confidentiality agreements. But now, 16 months later, at least one attendee turned a diagram of the plan over to Davis County investigators. They're conducting a criminal investigation into Operation Underground Railroad, its CEO Tim Ballard, and Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes. I reconstructed the chart from a diagram Ballard drew on a whiteboard during the meeting. The drawing shows multiple Ballard-controlled for-profit and nonprofit entities.
Oops, sorry, I was muted there. Now, what do we always say about, see, at least I'm catching it quicker now. What do we say about companies like this? What do we follow? Okay, so the research that I involved myself in and the people that I have looked into and checked into about it. Hey, you got me now, Blondie? Can you hear me? You got me. You good? Okay. 10-4? Copy that? All right. So we got to follow the money, right? So let's do that.
Several paths for money to flow to Tim Ballard's main for-profit
That's right.
company. How O.U.R would bring more converts into the Mormon faith. A deeper involvement by the LDS Church's presiding apostle, M. Russell Ballard, than I had previously reported in Op-Ed 6. And O.U.R's takeover of an orphanage in Haiti in an apparent attempt to monetize adoptions. Ballard wanted to make millions. His nonprofit, Operation Underground Railroad, has millions of dollars in the bank. But he cannot simply write checks to himself at the risk of losing tax-exempt status. He had already taken his annual salary above $300,000 in 2018 before backing off that approach. One solution: surround that nonprofit with other nonprofits and for-profits in a complex labyrinth of entities where money would eventually flow into his personal bank account. A bonus, the same publicity sizzle, that is what he called sizzle on his chart, that generates donations and profits, could bring masses of people into the Mormon Church. It was his capitalism begets church converts plan. At the top of the diagram,
so this is from someone who came forward to investigators to give some information regarding Tim Ballard, the Attorney General of Utah, and the entities that they were involved in to move funds around. Okay, basically taking them from a nonprofit place to move it into a personal account. So you're going to see some of that being done here. So allegedly, and that's what this is in the video game.
Slave Stealers LLC with 3 partners.
Now these are the
Tim
companies.
Ballard, and LDS Apostle Russell Ballard as a silent partner.
Now you heard LDS Elder Russell Ballard, meaning that he is a church elder. That is affinity fraud. That is using his status in the church, and that's influential in Utah. That's influential to enrich these 2 guys over here in this LLC. This is a for-profit company. This is an LLC. All right. You make money with LLCs. I got them. This is what you do. All right. You got to have your partners. You got to have it set up a certain way. Utah's probably different. They're all a little different. But the point is that this already right here, I believe, is committing affinity fraud right out of the gate, because you're using this elder in order to make money. So they're going to go around and collect money and raise money for this company with his name.
An outside nonprofit run by former O.U.R operative Paul Hutchinson was envisioned to donate to multiple entities.
Watch sizzle. Remember what that means.
Ballard's use of the word sizzle was taken to mean that the nonprofits would attract donors by way of dynamic humanitarian missions, such as rescuing child sex slaves. Money would end up in Ballard's own company that would make more money with a new movie, his speaking engagements, upcoming books, and some of that would go back to Slave Stealers LLC. In this episode, I'll focus on 3 entities shown on the chart: Slave Stealers, the Haiti Orphanage, and Children Need Families Foundation. O.U.R appears to have taken at least partial control of a Haitian orphanage that has been mismanaged by Gesno Marty. More about that in a few minutes. The second whiteboard entity I'll put under the microscope is one Tim Ballard and his wife Catherine formed. They installed Janet Russin from Utah County as its director. Even though they called it a nonprofit, it has not been registered with the IRS. I'll begin with a look at the for-profit entity at the top of Ballard's whiteboard sketch, Slave Stealers LLC. He claimed the Mormon Church's top apostle, Russell Ballard, is a silent partner. Video Op-Ed 6 dealt with the covenant controversy and Russell Ballard's support of Tim Ballard's Slave Stealer book. Here Russell Ballard is pictured with Glenn Beck and Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard at the whiteboard meeting implied that
Glenn
Russell
Beck,
Ballard also has a financial
Mormon,
interest
just
in the book's
little
spin.
side note there, which is also, see, when you throw Glenn Beck in there, well, then you really have some extra influence going on, right? So now we're getting further into this concept of affinity fraud, and it's very clear. It's starting to make itself quite clear, according to this research.
Off a proposed television series, also called Slave Stealers. Slave Stealers has a Farmington, Utah office address. It's the business address for Brad Brower, Russell Ballard's son-in-law. Brower and Russell Ballard declined interviews. Melissa Ballard, Russell Ballard's daughter-in-law, is a state representative. She's seen here on the right with her husband, Craig, and Jessica Mass, O.U.R's aftercare director, at a fundraiser event. She plugged O.U.R on her website by passing along Ballard's unproven and false fundraising pitches. She wrote, "Amazing night for Operation Underground Railroad. In just 5 years, they went from saving 260 kids in a year to more than 1,200 kids this year from slavery. The most stunning statistic tonight, 2 million African slaves were taken over 400 years. Today, there are more than 40 million slaves." Slave Stealers, an existing book and a planned TV series. According to a press release, the proposed series designed to cast a light on slavery, past and present, is currently in development. Says Emmy-winning Nick Nanton is producing alongside Brian Norton and Ballard through their Stowaway Productions and Eighth Wonder Entertainment. And it says Ballard's Operation Underground Railroad, the nonprofit set up to combat human trafficking, is also involved. There are 2 slave stealers-related entities not on Ballard's chart. One is 11th Street Films, LLC, and Stowaway Productions, LLC. Both are registered by Tim Ballard and associated with Nick Nanton, who directed the movie Operation Tucson. What is not clear, where is the financing coming from? And when will production begin, if ever?
So basically, in this episode, we're going to follow the money. We're going to follow a couple of alleged, bamboozles that have happened with this organization. And we're going to continue listening to some of Mr. Packer's work and research into the finances of this company. So if you live on Twitch right now, if you're watching me right there on Instagram, the link is right down there at the bottom. It's also in my bio. Tim Ballard, Underground Railroad Exposed, TBM report number 19. Thank you guys so much for joining me. April 19th, 2021. Again, thank you so much for everybody jumping in here and watching this. Look, these are questions that we have to ask. We cannot blindly just jump on any train and go with it. So now what we're finding out here is that there are a lot of other people who have done research about this, all right? And these are legitimate researchers. The guy who's doing this, Lynn Packer, okay, he is way more legitimate as a journalist than I am. That's why a lot of times I have these legitimate researchers come and say what I need you to hear, okay? So, again, if you are there on Instagram, there's the link right down there at the bottom. It's pinned, or the link is in my bio. I'm on Twitch right now live and on Twitter. So
Slave Stealers is also connected to Ballard's very recently released Sound of Freedom movie. The release of that movie had already been delayed by more than 2 years. It looks like no theater chain or streaming service like Netflix wanted it. Now its March 2021 release is by a small, obscure streaming outlet and advertised for free and can be accessed via YouTube. Slave Stealers partner Brian Norton is also involved with 2 O.U.R-related St. George area firearms training centers, Fort Pierce Tactical Ranch and Salvo LLC. Norton is also rumored to be paying Ballard $900,000 a year for his piece of the whiteboard pie. Next up on Ballard's whiteboard chart, the purported nonprofit entity Children Need Families, founded by Tim Ballard's wife, Catherine, and headed by Janet Russin. CNF's business address is Janet Russon's home in Provo. Russon is the foundation's executive director. Board members are Tim Ballard, Catherine Ballard, and Tevye Ware, Catherine's sister. Ware is also O.U.R CFO and is paid about $100,000 a year. Although CNF claims to be a nonprofit, it is not registered with the IRS or Utah as required of nonprofits. It apparently provides donor tax deductions through O.U.R. In any event, there are no annual IRS reports. That severely limits what donors and taxpayers know about the entity that Tim Ballard put on his whiteboard chart along with the word sizzle. Brent Andrewson, O.U.R nonprofit attorney, declined explaining if an entity can claim to be a nonprofit and solicit donations without being registered with the IRS. CNF is not Russon's first O.U.R-related charity involvement. Her now defunct Little Fish Foundation once raised money for Gesno Marty's orphanage in Haiti. Her charity is not registered with the IRS, but she may have paid taxes, and donors might not have claimed tax deductions, so it may have been legal. It appears she did continue operating the charity after its Utah's corporate registration expired 8 years ago. Russon has a lot of O.U.R-related Facebook friends. In March this year, Vice World News reported that Janet, the article did not use her last name, is a psychic who claimed to have divined where Gardy Marty was being held as a child labor slave. It was yet another failed attempt to find Gardy among numerous failed attempts.
Okay. Now,
the blunder Gardy...
This is the part where this... Okay. This is the part where you need to relax because you're going to get upset. All right. There's some stuff on here that's not pleasant at all. And I'm just letting you know now.
O.U.R-related Facebook friends. In March this year, Vice World News reported that Janet, the article did not use her last name, is a psychic who claimed to have divined where Gardy Marty was being held as a child labor slave. It was yet another failed attempt to find Gardy among numerous failed attempts.
Okay, do you remember this?
The blunder Gardy rescue mission took place at a remote location near the Dominican Republic border. Here are a couple of photos from the failed 2014 rescue mission. Vice's story about the psychic begins like this. The rescue mission near the border of Haiti and the Dominican Republic was not going well. Operation Underground Railroad had arrived at a remote village seeking a missing child. Acting on what founder Tim Ballard had promised was a solid tip from a source. O.U.R's so-called jump team had entered the village, pretending to be part of a medical team, and quietly surveyed the scene. But the missing child was nowhere to be found. And then, to the dismay of several people on the ground, Ballard produced his source, a psychic medium from Utah, Janet. The person had claimed that many children were being held near this village and that Gardy was among them. Ballard, both sources said, even called Gesno to tell him that his son was coming home and summoned him to the village. Tim shows up with this woman, this very sheltered-looking soccer momish woman from Utah, one source told Vice World News. And he's being very defensive and won't let anyone talk to her. After a couple days, I figured out she's an effing psychic. That's his effing source. Ballard wanted to capture the Gardy rescue on camera, wresting him from his slaveholders, reuniting him with his father, and whisking him to freedom on a helicopter Ballard had standing by. One of Vice's unnamed sources who was there said that Ballard was making decisions like a reality TV producer, He starts running around the village like an idiot. The cameras are following him. He's drawing so much attention to himself. But there was no rescue. There was no made-for-television dramatic moment. O.U. operative Mark Mabry was there snapping photographs, including one when Gesno Marty was told his son may not be there after all. An O.U.R. spokesperson did not dispute Janet's involvement. O.U.R. has partnered with Janet, who is referred to O.U.R. by a U.S. law enforcement agency for some of our top-level cases. She has been very successful in helping our rescue efforts alongside our law enforcement partners. Janet Russin declined comment. Her husband told me she had signed a non-disclosure agreement with O.U.R. ESP failed. A psychic did not lead to Gardy's rescue. Prayer had not worked either, and neither did a far more extreme measure, torture. Here's what led up to such a desperate measure. The kidnapping in front of a Mormon chapel made worldwide news via an Associated Press story. Tim Ballard has told the Gardy kidnapping story perhaps hundreds of times. I reported on it in a previous video op-ed, so I won't go into detail here. Shortly after Gardy's disappearance, his father got a phone call. The call came from a phone number that Gesno recognized as belonging to a former employee from several years back.
Now understand that this researcher, for publishing this, all right, and this is a guy who is an actual journalist for a very long time, has been involved in a lot of investigative journalism, and you can look him up. His name is Lynn Kenneth Packer. And we're going to continue on. I think he does a lot of great research. Make sure you're liking, sharing, comment, and make sure you're active in the chat. Keep it going. Ask any questions you like. That's what we're here for. This is going to be difficult, okay, for a lot of people to start to see how this unpacks itself. This is just the first part of a series, all right? And we're just following the money right now.
Just before the earthquake, a Haitian news outlet reported on the abduction. It wrote, Gardy Marty III, an American citizen by birth, was kidnapped December 6, 2009 by two men riding on a motorcycle in the front yard of a church. He lived in the Caribbean nation with his father, one of his Haitian-born parents. Since the little Gardy is an American citizen, FBI agents are in Haiti to help Haiti police with the investigation. It showed the only photo I've ever seen of FBI and UN officers investigating. Ballard's investigation began 4 years after the kidnapping, and he embellishes his story. He said, no one in Haiti talks. We went back to the church and interviewed every single person that was there that Sunday that Gardy was taken, and no one would talk. Gesno said that, like a year later, even his closest congregation members finally came to him and said, we did see Gardy taken by a motorcycle driver. Ballard and Gesno are wrong. When the FBI investigated, some church members did provide information. Utah adoption agent Cheryl Moyes gave me new information about the Gardy kidnapping. Moyes is co-founder of the Haitian Roots nonprofit and manager of Wasatch International Adoptions. She's part of a Haiti to Mormon families adoption pipeline and one of the nation's leading experts on Haitian adoptions. Gesno Marty's Foyer des Sion orphanage was and is a source for her clients long before Tim Ballard was involved. Right after the earthquake, she helped bring Gesno Marty's family to live in the United States, first in Ogden, Utah, then Idaho, then Florida, and finally St. George. Moyes provides a couple of new details about the kidnapping, details that O.U.R. leaves out of the Gardy story. She says, Gesno told her that another son, Gus, 2 years older than Gardy, was with Gardy on the sidewalk at the time of the kidnapping. Gus either escaped being put on the motorcycle or the kidnapper could not fit both boys on the motorcycle. He would have been an important eyewitness. Gesno told her that he did not quickly recognize the kidnapper's phone number as that of his former employee, Carlos Bristol, but concluded that sometime later. That phone number was the key evidence.
Hey, tell me the truth. Do not come into my lobby, okay, and try to drive traffic out of here, okay? That's rude. I'm trying to unpack something really difficult, and I don't need you to do that shit right now, all right? So, stop it or get the fuck out. Thank you. Sorry, I just have no patience anymore, guys.
Linking Carlos Bristol to the kidnapping and led to his arrest.
If you follow Ballard, just listen. I don't need you to
Tim
fucking prove
Ballard
it.
identifies
Okay?
3 people.
This is what this is. Thank you. I appreciate the apology. Accepted. Now we can move on and be friends again.
Orchestrated Gardy's kidnapping and subsequent sale into sex or labor slavery. Carlos Bristol was arrested shortly after Gardy's disappearance in 2010. He was accused of abducting Gardy in front of the church and escaping on a motorcycle. He was a member of Marty's LDS ward and former employee at a Marty orphanage. V. Rose Pressois was arrested 4 years later, in 2014, after police and O.U.R. raided her orphanage searching for Gardy. She was also a member of the Marty's Mormon ward. Wilson Bristol, Carlos's brother, was arrested 8 years after the kidnapping in 2018, after Ballard changed his mind and concluded that Wilson snatched little Gardy. O.U.R. wanted Haiti police to force them to reveal what happened to Gardy. Haitian police, as part of an O.U.R. sting operation to find Gardy, arrested Pressois and her daughter after they took $20,000 in the sale of 2 children. After the arrest, they interrogated Pressois. They demanded to know what she had done with Gardy. Where is he? They even offered to free her daughter, who was arrested with V. Rose, if she said what she knew about Gardy. O.U.R. first resorted to prayer in real time as interrogators asked V. Rose Pressois about Gardy's whereabouts right after her arrest. Pressois is seen being interrogated as a translator in another room tells O.U.R. operatives what she is saying.
I think we should pray it right now.
Let's say for a little bit. He started.
Heavenly Father, we ask you to please answer all the millions of prayers that have gone up to find this little boy. If he's alive, and if Rose knows where he's at, please soften her heart so that she will reveal this information to us. We might follow through and find God.
I'm not telling anybody how to pray. I just noticed something interesting here. And I'm going to stop for a minute because I think it is notable. Maybe nothing. But even if I'm in the presence of men, and it looks like this is a circle of men, look at how they're standing. Wouldn't you in a prayer circle bring everybody in like a huddle, and put your arms up and maybe around them and bring it in like that? I'm just, I'm spitballing here. Somebody help me the fuck out. Maybe I'm out of my mind, right? Maybe I'm out of my mind. We'll share whatever you like, but just, don't try and draw anything away from this broadcast. I think it's very important for people to see, and it would just irritate me. I mean, that's just a little bit odd, don't you think? For a group of men who are religious men, prayerful men, faithful men. I've been in plenty of prayer circles. I've been in prayer circles at all kinds of church meetings. Every time, men, women, whatever, a prayer circle, you lock it up. You bring it in. Hello. I mean, this just doesn't seem right. Like, this just doesn't feel right.
Please answer all the
Not to
millions
me.
of prayers.
I haven't seen every minute of this, by the way.
To find this little boy. If he's alive, and if she...
That body language is just so bizarre.
Please soften her heart.
And why isn't she in the prayer circle? Wait, hold on a fucking second. Stop. That's the mother, and she's not in the prayer circle. Now look. Just listen, okay? Well, hold on. This is the mother of the kid. And she's not in the prayer circle either. I don't know. You're just going to have to make your own judgment from that. I already got mine.
Operatives, what she is saying.
That's a lot fishy.
I think we should pray right now.
Let's say prayer really quick. He's starting this.
Heavenly Father, we ask you to please answer all the millions of prayers that have gone up to find this little boy. If he's alive, and if Ephros knows where he's at, please soften her heart.
I can't tell if that's her in the same shot at the same time. I can't say that's her in the same shot at the same time. I can only speak for the men that are standing there, because that could be a clip from another time. So I don't want to get anybody to get the wrong idea or the false impression that just doesn't look like it's in the same thing. But yeah, look at this, arms crossed praying. When does that happen? I just want to look up something real quick, if you guys don't mind. Here we go. Now I search on Ecosia. Okay, I got to show you guys something. All right. Look, they're praying like that. And on Ecosia, I just searched. All right. Male prayer circle. Ecosia images. Look at this. They're all either, if they're in chairs, if they're not, look. For example, do you see all that, you guys? Do you see all that? I don't know if you guys could see that in the frame, but look at that. They're either holding hands. They got their hands in the middle. Okay, this one, they're sitting in chairs and their hands are clasped in prayer. Okay. See that? Right, exactly. Their hands are, these other guys here, arms around each other. See, these other guys here are maybe just holding their palms up, which, these guys here got their hands together. These guys here, prayer circle. But what the fuck? So now all of a sudden, that's a prayer circle? What they're doing? Is that it? Elbows, everybody cross their effing arms? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Come on now. Come on, Cupcake.
So that she will reveal this information to us. We might follow through and find guardian. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Oh, he put his hand on his up. Oh, yeah, there he did. He did touch him.
Haiti's legal system is corrupt, to say the least. Bribes to police, judges, and prosecutors are the norm. Pressoir was not afforded any right to have an attorney present. Haiti police not only allowed O.U.R. to listen to the interrogation and video record it, but also to participate in it directly. That's all illegal in the United States. During questioning, she did admit to the illegal sale of 2 children in connection with O.U.R.'s sting operation, but she would not admit to involvement in any Gardaí kidnapping. O.U.R. was ready with operatives and cameras to rescue Marty if she disclosed where he was. She did not.
This is the time when you come clean.
It just doesn't seem like a very sincere
now.
No more lies. Right now, you can't give lie. We have all the evidence, everything.
So they're listening to an interrogation? Or they're about to
Point us in the right direction. We won't send your daughter to prison.
Oh, I don't know who she is. Maybe she's not the mother. Oh, she's like a suspect.
Carlos Bristol, the Haiti Mormon who had worked in Gesno Marty's orphanage, was in prison 4 years prior to Pressoir's arrest.
A lot of these companies have orphanages.
This photo is one
as
O.U.R. claims was taken of Carlos Bristol in prison. This is his Facebook photo where he posts that he was a returned Mormon missionary and attending a Haitian college. He was arrested right after the December 2009 kidnapping, imprisoned, and then tortured in an attempt to find Gardy's whereabouts. O.U.R. operative Mark Mabry interviewed Gesno Marty about Carlos Bristol for a Slave Stealer podcast. During the interview, Gesno said, "A guy working for me at the orphanage, he's the one who took Gardy first. They put him in jail. He never confessed." Gesno said police tried putting inmates in the cell with Carlos to get a confession. That did not work. Mabry then commented, "I think that waterboarding and torture should be allowed in certain situations, and that's one of them." Gesno replied, "They tried that. They put a plastic bag over his head." Gesno said while torture did not extract a confession as to Gardy's fate, it did induce Carlos to name an accomplice, who Gesno said was arrested and still in jail at the time of the 2017 interview. I've not learned the name of the accomplice. I'll now play the audio recording of that part of the interview.
And they never confessed, they said they know nothing about it.
He never confesses.
No.
I think waterboarding and torture should be allowed in certain situations. Maybe that's one of them. Because
yes, well, at first, one day, the first day when they got him, they tried to, they even tried that.
they did.
Yeah.
What did they tell me about it?
Yeah, they did that. The guy who took him first, they put plastic bag in his head, intimidated him,
They put a plastic bag on his head?
Yes, showing that they were serious about it.
Hey, we're in Haiti. Anything goes, right? Like they plastic bag him on the head. They're interrogating him, scaring him.
Then when it was a little bit hard.
Ballard's view of the case is that the employee believed Gesno had come into some money and made a plan to kidnap Gardy and collect ransom money. But he can't do it himself, so he turns to others who have experience in this loathsome business. The traffickers, Ballard believes, know they can make more money off him by either selling him or using him as a labor or sex slave, and had no intention of returning him for ransom. The now former employee is in jail, Ballard said, refusing to cooperate, while it is believed the traffickers are exploiting poor little Gardy for their own enjoyment. What Ballard is saying is that Carlos Bristol is still in jail 7 years after his arrest. Just a month after Bristol was arrested, the Deseret News reported, the FBI was called in and spent a week in Haiti following leads and interviewing the former employee who was considered a prime suspect. They turned the man over to Haitian authorities and left, while the man was imprisoned during the ongoing investigation. But the earthquake damaged prisons, and many prisoners either escaped or were released from unstable buildings. The suspect in the Marty case is back free on the island, and the priority given the investigation by the police dropped astronomically given the quake's aftermath.
Oh, thank you, because I was talking to you. Do you think that I was muted on that one? Man, that was good. I know, I got it. Come on, think about that, though, about this question. I understand you have a question, but why would a kid they're searching all over the world for this kid over and over and over again. Why would he be in, all of a sudden he's like adopted and saved by this guy? No. And just
fast forward 8 years after Carlos Bristol was arrested to what O.U.R. called Operation Wilson, which was O.U.R.'s code name for the arrest of Wilson Bristol, Carlos's brother. 2 years after the arrest, Ballard decided to show the video, writing that with Haitian law enforcement, we were able to track down Wilson and arrest him in 2018. This video shows never before seen footage of this operation. O.U.R. went from being certain Carlos snatched Gardy to being certain it was Wilson. Ballard wrote, Bristol was a notorious gang leader and found to be one of Gardy's main traffickers. Wilson is the brother of Carlos, who was the one that physically kidnapped Gardy on the back of the motorcycle.
We're going after a guy named Wilson Bristol. They call him Little Jamaican. That was the brother of Carlos Bristol. Carlos was working for Gesno. Wilson Bristol, he's a notorious gang leader now. And this guy is the one that trafficked Gardy many years ago. So this is the first time we've had a lead this hot on Gardy in years. So this guy can give us all the information that we need to talk to where he is.
Guys, I'm running this story right now on Twitch, so the link is down there in the bottom. It's in my story.
I just get him up. Let's go.
So come to that link down at the bottom there that's pinned.
Despite all O.U.R.'s talk about the kidnapping suspects, most questions remain unanswered. How did Gesno even know that Carlos Bristol was tortured, yet did not reveal Gardy's whereabouts? Who else knew? Were any O.U.R. operatives at the prison when Bristol was tortured? They were present, participated, and prayed when Pressois was first interrogated. Was either Pressois, the unnamed accomplice, or Wilson Bristol also tortured? What evidence was used to convict and imprison the kidnapped suspects? Are any still imprisoned?
Okay, so here's what we have. Some of the things that we're breaking down from Lynn Kenneth Packer's film here. This is going to be part one of a series that I'm doing, and greetings to everybody on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, and any of the other platforms that I might be showing this on, perhaps BitChute, perhaps some other things, who knows. What we have here is a very legitimate investigator. Again, his name is Lynn Kenneth Packer. Feel free to look him up. Very legitimate journalist. Was thrown out of the Mormon Church because he published some of this. So make sure you like, subscribe. Make sure you share these stories with your friends and share this page so people can. That's the best way to support this page, is by subscribing, liking, and sharing. If you want to take that support to another level. God bless America. You can see stuff like that in the banner down there. My Patreon does have my seminar series on the bloodlines, which is also very fascinating. But we're going to keep unpacking this right here.
If not, how,
and
when, and why were they released?
There are a lot of questions that have not been answered. Now, for me, when I start to see questions not get answered, I start to get a little bit suspicious. I get a little concerned. Right. And if you're watching me on Instagram, I am right now live on Twitch. It's that pinned link right down in there. You could also see it in my story. Twitch.tv, The Veritas Machine. Come join me. I'm doing this story right now live about Tim Ballard and the Underground Railroad. This is going to be part one. Everybody here who's with me in the lobby, we are going to have several other parts to this story. People are afraid to ask these questions about people like this, and we can't be. We can't be afraid to look at this. These questions need to be answered, all right? Now, like I said, I'm not law enforcement. I'm not, but I'm just here seeing some research of an issue that I'm concerned with. And this guy laid it out already, what I want to say. So, that's great about op-eds too, is that I get to give my opinion, show my point of view without actually making this stuff. But I do, on a personal note, agree with a lot of what Lynn is saying here. So that's how we do it. And, you have to be careful with slander and things these days. You can't actually accuse anybody of anything. You can ask questions. But those questions can be leading without being accusing. And that is what accountability is all about when it comes to people who are taking this amount of money from the public. Okay? As you know, that's something that I look at very carefully. So we follow the money.
Find Gardy is the foundation upon which O.U.R. was born 7 years ago with what it called Operation Voodoo. The search continues to be Tim Ballard's top fundraising pitch. O.U.R. movies, The Abolitionists and Operation Tucson highlight Operation Voodoo. Ballard tells the story countless times over the years that O.U.R is close to finding Gardy, keeping hope alive and donations flowing. The truth is not closer than ever, but the opposite, farther than ever. Without sharing any proof as usual, Ballard posts on Instagram, "We haven't found him yet. We're getting closer than ever. We're putting more resources into this investigation than ever. We're going."
Do you see how hope creates this urge to help and assist and do something about this immediately, right away, right now? Well, guess what? That's the point. It's to get to your emotions. It's not real.
To find him.
Okay, the hat. $40.
The latest Find Gardy campaign centers on the hat.
Really? Well, I didn't see this part.
Gardy's been moved around quite a bit, but everywhere we go looking for him, we end up rescuing more children, taking us into places we never would have gone otherwise. We haven't found him yet, but we are closer than ever. We are putting more resources into this.
And you guys, this gives me no pleasure whatsoever to do this. This does not bring me joy. This bothers me. And that's why I speak out about it, because it bothers me. This does not make me happy to expose dark, stupid, shitty fucking people that take money and lie to you. It brings me no fucking joy. Okay? But somebody has to have the balls to say it, or it's going to keep happening. And sometimes the people that you think are the greatest are the fucking worst. Okay? And it just is what it fucking is. The truth is not always what you want it to be, nor is it what you perceive it to be. Live on Twitch and Twitter. If you're seeing me on Instagram, hit that right at the bottom. That's the link to jump into this lobby over here and see what I'm talking about, because you can't hear me on Instagram, but everybody who's over here can. And the point really does make itself, right? These are questions that need to be answered. Why haven't they been answered? Okay? And I will not be told or pressured or have somebody come tell me that if I don't get this right, that they're going to block. Well, guess what? You kiss my ass. I'm going to block you. I already did you the favor if you're listening here on Twitch. Okay? Go F yourself. I will oblige you. Okay? Now, let us continue.
This investigation than ever.
This is one of the biggest grifts out there. Okay? Follow the money.
And we're going to find him. And we're going to find him really soon.
How many years has that been?
Here's the truth about the "we're close" lies. When the search began with Operation Voodoo in 2014, Gardy had been missing 4 years, and the chances of finding him, even then, were very low. Chances continue to get worse over time, despite the deployment of prayer, a psychic, and torture, and despite costing perhaps hundreds of thousands of dollars. The story, though, has helped raise millions of dollars.
All right, well, I'll tell you, even though I was muted, that was really good what I just said. So I'm going to say it again. All right? Yes, this is Lynn Packer. So now, what I can also say is, I forgot what I said. This is a huge grift. These are the people that need to answer the questions that need to be answered. This brings me no joy, no pleasure in doing this. I don't like doing this. I don't like seeing shitty things in what people are saying are good works. Okay? This is horrifying to actually discover this and find this.
Okay, now to the last of the 3 Ballard whiteboard entities
Follow
covered
the
in
money.
this
Let's
episode.
go.
The orphanage in Haiti.
I have my mic
Gesno
muted, but it
Marty
sounded
and
good.
his
didn't it?
orphanages
What was
is
I
a
saying?
rags to riches
Anyway.
story.
You guys got
Taxi
that one. They
Driver,
didn't because it was
1999,
muted. So
a
join
small
me over
house
here on Twitch
orphanage
if you're
with a
not
tin
already over
roof,
there.
no electricity, no running water, no indoor toilet, to 3 orphanage houses and a downtown office by time Ballard met him in 2013, handling more than 700 adoptions.
You're not going to like
Money
this, by
poured
the way.
in
This part.
from multiple charities, a cut of adoption fees, plus monthly support fees for kids awaiting processing. Adoption fees could total more than $17 million. Maintenance fees per child for those kids awaiting adoption, it's a 2 to 3 year process, upwards of $250 a month. In 2003, a Utah charity constructed the Martys an $850,000 orphanage built on donated land. It was to
Upset me.
replace the
Not at all.
Gardays' tiny tin-roofed cottage housing 17 orphans. It had the attention of
Didn't upset
Haitian
me at all.
authorities.
Not a bit.
It was a model for future Haitian orphanages. The $850,000 included an endowment fund to run the facility. It was set up to facilitate Utah adoptions via LDS Social Services among private agencies. The Martys never assumed management of the showpiece orphanage built just for them. A Marty friend told me that Gesno did not want to operate it the way the group who built it wanted it run. They parted ways. Instead, Gesno and his wife Marjorie expanded to 3 orphanage sites at small rented houses, plus a downtown Port-au-Prince office. Gesno Marty's brother Harry, also a Mormon bishop, helped run them. Later, the brothers split, with Gesno running 2 sites and Harry taking over the 3rd. Then, in about 2004, Gesno acquired donated property and several $100,000 to build an even grander orphanage. An outside, anonymous charity donated the money, and unlike the previous building, the money went straight to Gesno. This footnote, Harry's orphanage was supported by Idaho's Haitian Roots Foundation. Harry, like Gesno, stayed in Haiti and sent his wife and children to live in the United States. Harry's orphanage was shut down late last year by its American charity. In 2005, construction began on Marty's Grand
Yes,
Orphanage
Philly,
outside
I understand
Port-au-Prince.
that. And,
Was even more.
this is something that I've done for a while. And, then for those people, what you can do is you could take the link and you could send this link when it's done or right now to those people who you feel need to see it. If you see people who believe the grift, send it to them. Let them know. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt for any of you to do that.
Palatial than the previous showpiece. An anonymous donor made hundreds of thousands of dollars in payments directly to Gesno Marty, bypassing his Foyer de Sion, Idaho-based charity.
I'm sorry, this is just really a fucking drag, this video. So just give me 1 second to do something here real quick, okay? Ready? Twitch and Twitter, Instagram. Twitch and Twitter, Instagram. Twitch and Twitter, Instagram. Twitch and Twitter, Instagram. Come over to my Twitch and Twitter, all right? The link's right down there. I'm not doing anything here. Like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking on Twitch. So come over here. Everybody watch me on Instagram. Everybody over here, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, do all the things. That's how you help this type of content get out there, okay? I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Let's go.
Gesno provided photos and receipts to show progress. It was designed as a self-sustaining paradigm. Solar panels to provide electricity during the day and charge batteries for night power. a rare internet connection to manage the sophisticated power system, a well and rooftop tanks for running water, an irrigated garden to raise crops for feeding kids, goats and chickens to provide milk and eggs, an in-house pharmacy for medical supplies, arrangements with a nearby school to educate kids, paid for by a California nonprofit. All of this fell apart, though, due to tragedy, gross mismanagement, and possible corruption. Disaster struck just as the building is completed. Gardy is kidnapped. A massive earthquake devastates Haiti. The Gardy's downtown office was leveled. 2 relatives on the orphanage payroll died when the office collapsed. Marjorie Marty was injured. One of their 3 orphanage houses was damaged, but no kids hurt. The near-completed new facility was pressed into greater service. International reporters interviewed the Martys. A British news outlet, The Independent, did a feature story on one of the Martys' orphans whose only possession was her red tartan dress. It wrote, for the past week, she's been living and sleeping in the indescribably filthy backyard of the Foyer des Sions orphanage in Pétionville. Pascal Marty, the orphanage's manager, says, "We have almost nothing left. When the earthquake happened, I had $100 in my pocket to buy food." Another independent post-earthquake story reported on the orphanage itself. Here are some excerpts. At the Foyer des Sions orphanage, I encounter squalor. 28 girls and boys are down to their last few bags of beans and rice. They are thirsty, but have no drinking water. Bedrooms resemble a prison, with 8 or more per room sleeping on filthy bunks. Excrement lines the floors. I do not see a single toy. The manager says a van arrived at the orphanage that morning from a Mormon church in Salt Lake City and whisked 10 of them
from
away
a Mormon
to new
church.
lives
Wait
in the
a
United
second.
States.
From a Mormon church in Salt Lake City. Now, would that happen to be related to the elder that is related to this mofo? I don't know. But they are the ones that are helping with his orphanage. And these are, you see the money trail. I don't need to show you the money trail anymore. Okay? So this is what it is. This is from, these are facts from the UK Independent. These are published facts. Okay? I'm not making this up.
Something about the Foyer des Sions doesn't smell quite right. There is no way, even before the quake, was ever the comfortable place pictured on its website, which is perused by would-be adoptive parents. Adoption can be a lucrative business. And the Foyer des Sions requires would-be parents to pay fees of almost $20,000 to rescue a child. It isn't entirely clear where this money goes. In the months and years to come, someone must take a long, hard look at Haiti's orphanage industry. A year later, The Independent followed up its feature story about the Foyer des Sions orphan.
Well, I would figure that those would be available. They would have to make those available, wouldn't they, Will?
The 9-year-old orphan who became the symbol of Haiti's tragedy, whose only possession was a tartan dress. Now she has a school.
Let me just fill you in on who this is doing this documentary. This is a gentleman by the name of Lynn Kenneth Packer, super legit journalist. And for doing all this research and publishing this, he was thrown out of the Mormon church. He was excommunicated. Why do you think they did that? Because he blew they must have woke him up on the wrong side of bed, and he just was one day he's just like, fuck these guys.
Uniform and hope for the future.
Live on Twitter and Twitch and Instagram. So if you're on my Instagram right now, you're going to see the link right down on the bottom. It is pinned. Join me over here on Twitter or Twitch. Twitch is better than Twitter, but my YouTubes are down for a moment. So we're all streaming on here. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment. If you want to go the extra mile, we got some banners running there. You guys can find those for yourself. and all the people who are on Instagram, come on over and join us on Twitch. And we're going to keep going with this right here. And again, this is really just not a pleasant story. This just gets worse and worse. It's going to keep going that direction, unfortunately. But you need to see this and know who these people are.
Her home is still a filthy orphanage on the outskirts of Port-au-Prince, where you won't find a single toy and where the children sleep up to 8 to a room.
Okay, now you're just going to
bunk
get pissed
beds.
off, so try to
Even before the
remain
quake,
calm.
it could take 2 to 3 years to finalize an adoption from Haiti. Well-meaning couples wishing to adopt from Haiti would have traditionally paid around $20,000 in fees, much of which ended up in the hands of the homes and their lawyers. And they would often also make additional donations during the adoption process. Multiple charities supported Marty's Foyer des Sions orphanage. 2 were co-founded by Gesno Marty. Foyer des Sions LLC in 2002 in Rupert, Idaho, had the same name as the orphanage, and Sion Funds for Haiti in 2008, based in Canyon, California, plus others not directly tied to the Martys. Early Foyer des Sions officers were suspected of profiting off adoptions. New officers and directors replaced the original. There was a rocky relationship with Gesno Marty as they demanded more accountability and better management, but conditions at the orphanage worsened. Eventually, Tim Ballard and O.U.R. cut off Foyer des Sions LLC funding and assigned a director, and the charity was dissolved. Joelle Burge is a former chairman of the nonprofit. She had extensive management training from Princeton and the Wharton School of Business. She told me, "It was an uphill battle working with Gesno. We tried to get him a day-to-day operations manager. He was very resistant. The board wanted to fix broken solar panels on the roof. It was challenging getting receipts. He resisted attempts to improve the orphan intake system that is keeping track of incoming children. It was a mystery he could afford to educate his children in the United States. I think he had other sources of funding, perhaps preferring to just go with O.U.R. It was really frustrating. We were just told O.U.R. is taking over." After the earthquake, Gesno Marty family
O.U.R. is
members
taking
already
over.
had visas and passports. Marjorie Marty, with daughters Gail, Gesri, and Gloria, went to Utah, then Idaho, then Florida, supported by Haitian Roots Charity Associated Families. Harry's wife and children also moved to the United States. Jude Colas, Gesno's brother, another orphanage worker, moved to Utah. Gesno shuttled back and forth, visiting family and fundraising for O.U.R. and his orphanage. In 2019, Gesno leaves Haiti and moves to the United States. Or does he? Tim Ballard said, "It's too dangerous for Gesno to stay in Haiti. Gesno is penniless, having spent all of his money searching for Gardy. He needs to be home with his family in Utah." Tim Ballard pled for donations to help the Marty family come home. Home in Ballard speak was not Haiti, but Utah. He wrote, "This will be the first time in the 10 years since little Gardy's abduction that Gesno will be under the same roof as the rest of his family, but we cannot do it without your help." This was Ballard's pitch for donations. It's now no longer safe for Gesno to remain in Haiti, and we need to bring the Marty family home to Utah, where they will be safe and can work closely with myself and team to help raise awareness and continue the search for Gardy. Coming from a third world country where all of their money has been spent on searching for their son, the Martys have only the clothes on their back and each other. What they need now more than anything is money.
I mean, Gardy is the kid whose story created Operation Underground Railroad. The more we go looking for Gardy, a funny thing happens. Every time we look for him, we find other kids. Gesno Marty, this father,
except him.
He's my hero.
That's interesting.
We have never given up hope that we will find him.
We have found a way for them to be together and fight this fight more effectively. And so this will be the first time since Gardy was taken years ago that this family is living together as a family. donate and help us help the Marty family.
The apparently penniless Gardys were settled in a Washington, Utah home near St. George. Is Ballard lying? Is it true Gesno faced grave new danger in Haiti and had to leave? Is it true he actually moved to Utah? And is it true he was penniless? A close Marty family friend, Corey MacArthur, is not aware Gesno left Haiti. The MacArthurs knew the Marty family long before the earthquake. Gesno called Carrie MacArthur the day Gardy was abducted. Larry MacArthur was in Haiti and present in one of the FBI's meetings with Gesno. Corey MacArthur spoke with Gesno by phone as recently as March this year. He was in Haiti. He still lives in Haiti, but comes to visit, she said. He's still looking for Gardy. Gesno was working on a new lead that weekend. He has people overseeing the orphanage's operation, she said. And she believes Gesno owns the donor-paid-for orphanage. As I mentioned, O.U.R. took over the orphanage's fundraising. That effort is now a subset of what Ballard calls the Gardy effect. That is also a project of Operation Underground Railroad. This all happened near the time that Ballard, on his whiteboard chart, showed an orphanage as an O.U.R. entity, and near the same time, Ballard raised money to get Gesno out of Haiti and purportedly moved to Utah. The Gardy Effect has a website. It says the orphanage is for placing Haitian children into forever families. That's Mormon speak for Mormon families. It says Foyer des Sions is an orphanage, child trauma rehabilitation center, and school for children in Haiti, founded by Gesno Marty following the kidnapping of his son Gardy. That's O.U.R. revisionist history. It was formed long before Gardy disappeared. Goes on to say Foyer des Sions aspires to be the leading organization. Well, it's really an example of how to waste hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's a button on the website to donate, but it's through O.U.R. There are no Gardy Effect public tax returns to provide transparency. The entity Gardy Center at Foyer des Sions is a Utah DBA established in September 2018.
Come on over and join me. I'm on Twitch right now. The link is down there. You don't have to have the app to view it.
Wilson. It's
This
owned
is the
by
story I'm
Utah's
doing.
Equity Trust
down there.
Foundation.
Come on,
The
man.
directors are Ken Krogh and John Moreland. They're also directors for Tim Ballard's entity,
Following the
Liberty
money.
89. These are related entities not on Ballard's whiteboard. John Moreland is a former O.U.R. president. Brad Brower is Apostle Russell Ballard's son-in-law. You might recall he is also involved with slave stealers.
Feel free to fact check this.
The Liberty 89 team consists of O.U.R. operatives Hugh Vail and Mark Mabry. Vail is believed to be a witness for the ongoing criminal investigation. And Attorney General Sean Reyes is a Liberty 89 speaker. Just what are O.U.R.'s plans for its involvement with the Haiti orphanage shown on Ballard's whiteboard, which O.U.R. also calls the Gardy Center at Foyer des Sions? O.U.R.'s orphanage director, Jeff Frazier, said, as of July 2020, that means we are developing management and capital deployment methods within a large orphanage near Port-au-Prince.
Management and capital deployment methods within a large orphanage near Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Okay?
Haiti. He said, once best practices are developed, we will seek to scale those methods across Haiti. This will make way for far larger numbers of child rescues. This may indicate O.U.R. plan to monetize the orphanage and to acquire more of them in Haiti, perhaps beyond. After about 2 years of O.U.R. involvement, the orphanage, by O.U.R.'s own admission, is a mess, probably no better than when Gesno Marty ran it into the ground. Despite having millions of dollars in the bank, O.U.R. has not invested.
So it was the father of the alleged kidnapped child who ran the place before. Right? And he ran it into the ground. What would one do if one was in a compromised position? Could they possibly, there's a lot of things going on here.
Much in the orphanage. Instead, continues asking donors to pay for what has been a money pit. In a YouTube video, it is not an orphanage critic, but O.U.R.'s own director who points out the orphanage's squalid state.
There's no running water here.
So this is where they put the
no
kids, okay? This is where these people put these kids.
Generator back there. There's also solar on the roof, but the solar's broken, and the water pump broke because they didn't have the funds to fix that. The food, one of the women I was interviewing today, one of the leaders or supervisors, she was telling me how she had to pick worms out of the rice before she could cook it. And she was telling me about her tears inside as she was having to put her straight face on. The nannies are incredible. They're the ones who stay with these kids 24/7. But because they don't have any electricity and don't have any running water, they have to wash the clothes. You can see they're everywhere. They wash them back there in the back of that trailer by hand. And I'm not kidding, this woman's fingernails were falling off because she was having to wash so many clothes. I can't imagine. And we can help these people.
Evaluating Tim Ballard's whiteboard plan that shows the orphanage in Haiti, there is no transparency. O.U.R. has provided no accounting of how it's funding the Foyer des Sions orphanage. The public does not know how much they've raised.
O.U.R. does not provide any accounting of how it is funding the Foyer des Sions orphanage in Haiti. No documentation, no accountability, okay? This is O.U.R. taking in millions and millions of dollars, okay? And what is happening here? None of these kids have what they need. And they're still taking millions of dollars. Live on Twitch and Twitter right now. If you're on my Instagram, you're going to see the link pinned right below you. Come on over into Twitch and listen to this story about Tim Ballard and Underground Railroad and some of these fucking shenanigans with these people. Are you kidding me? Are you joking? See, people don't follow the money. This guy did. And this is what you have to do. This is how you find this stuff. Is you have to, first of all, you got to feel something's wrong. Like I did. And then you got to go looking for this kind of thing. And then you find it. It's not that hard. You would be surprised what, a lot of people just don't want to look. It's like you don't want to know that the fucking guy's behind the curtain in Wizard of Oz because you want to be Dorothy and you want to follow the yellow brick fucking road. Now stop it. Okay? It is time to grow the fuck up. It is time for people to look at these companies and corporations and see what they are doing. They need to prove it. They're the ones that are taking the money from the public. I do not like this. Okay? I kind of do, Judy. I have a gift. What can I say? I'm a bloodhound. All right? And I don't mean like the dog with the flop ears. I mean like in Apex Legends, like I will in a video game, I will scan through walls and find you. This is Lynn Kenneth Packer. Okay.
How they spend it. The public has no idea how much money over the years
I highly recommend
has
that
been
you
lost
look
to
him up.
Mismanagement or fraud. Tim Ballard may not know how to run an orphanage, but he is adept at creating an image that motivates donors to contribute tens of millions of dollars.
Here we go.
To his Finding Gardy and Rescuing Child Sex Slaves causes. He has been aided by Utah's mainstream news media that disseminates Ballard's propaganda, beginning at the beginning, with Gesno Marty's search for his kidnapped son and continuing to this day. Aided by Utah's mainstream press that reports propaganda as if it were actual news. Ballard's image making began on day one, that is, at the very beginning of O.U.R, and Ballard's relationship with Gesno Marty in 2013.
Well, it is what it is.
Ballard tells the story
Now
of
you
their
know.
first meeting at a Thanksgiving Point, Utah restaurant.
Stay close. Hold the gun.
Ballard was still an agent with Homeland Security.
And grab the cannolis.
It's a story he tells over and over.
Don't leave the
like
gun.
this
Bring the gun
interview
and the
with his
cannolis.
book publisher.
But I believe you met an angel, a mortal angel,
Yes.
named Gesno Marty.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So
what
he
you're
was very
doing.
instrumental in starting, we call him the godfather of Operation Underground Railroad. And I learned about this case, and I just, my heart melted, of course. And especially being that he was a bishop. And so I flew him up to the United States, to Salt Lake, and I said, what's being done to find your son? And I'm thinking, I'm going to make this a U.S. case. I can do this. He's a U.S. citizen. So I'm going to make this a U.S. case, and I start getting to work, right? And I find out in a couple of weeks, the DOJ comes back, and they say, Tim, back off. This is a Haitian crime. You're not going to Haiti. It happened in Haiti by Haitians. Let it go.
Ballard was not truthful in that interview. The DOJ considered it a crime, even if committed in Haiti. The FBI did investigate, and the United Nations helped as well. At the same Utah County dinner meeting, as Ballard tells it, I foolishly invited him to the nicest restaurant at Thanksgiving Point. I thought I was doing something kind, but he totally feels out of place. We order this food, and he's looking at it, and then he's just like, this could feed 10 of my kids for a week. He just took like a little bit of the food for himself. He was leaving the next morning, so he's like, this food won't perish. I'll be able to take it back to my kids. And so the myth-making begins. Gesno had visited the States many times before the Thanksgiving Point meeting, on fundraisers, reunions, and for Gardy's birth. If a $50 meal would feed 10 kids for a week, then a $1,500 airfare multiplied by the number of U.S. visits, multiplied again by the number of family members along with Gesno, would feed 300 plus kids for a week, times the multipliers, probably into the thousands of children. A friend of the Martys told me she dined with Gesno many times in the States before his 2013 Ballard meeting, and he never asked for a doggy bag to take food back to the orphanage. At the time Gesno met Gallery, Gesno's orphanage had taken in hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations, adoption fees, maintenance fees, tons of donated food, plus countless hours of donor labor. As I said earlier, by 2013, his orphanage had facilitated more than 700 adoptions costing $20,000 to $30,000 each, amounting to an estimated $17.5 million, a small cut of which was his profit. At the time of Gesno's Ballard meeting, his family had been living in the United States for 3 years, and his children attending school in Utah, Idaho, then Florida, largely paid for by donations. Since then, Ballard has used Gesno Marty repeatedly.
Excuse me? Yeah, you probably put the name in wrong because I gave you the name right.
Repeatedly for fundraising and politicking.
Check. Yeah, just look off there or something like that. I'll type it in case you spelled it wrong. Okay, 1 second. Put this in here for you. Okay. Here you go. In case you heard me wrong. Here you go.
Much of Haiti's orphanage system is just another form
I did see
of
another
human
one in there, but
trafficking,
I didn't check it. It's not
fueled
him.
by greed and despair. Was Gesno's orphanage, now part of Ballard's whiteboard plan, any different? Any less corrupt? Wrapping up this report,
No problem.
here are some
Happy to do
facts about Haiti orphanages. There have been upwards of 723 in Haiti.
Come join me on Twitch now,
Adoption
guys.
became big business, not
Link is
only
right
for
down the bottom.
orphanages, but for the Haitian government. Almost no kids
Doing
in
the Tim
Haiti
Ballard story
orphanages
live
are
on Twitch.
rescued sex and labor
Right
slaves.
down below. It's pinned below
Most
you. Come
are
on
not
over.
even orphans,
You don't need the
but
app
dropped off by
to
one
watch
or
it.
more parents. Many Haitian parents, because of poverty and out of despair, cannot feed and
It
educate
happens.
their kids. Or greedy, wanted kids adopted to rich countries with the expectation of getting back remittances, which is to say, in Haiti, it got into the lucrative adoption business of selling kids. Haitians' adoption system became one of the most corrupt and least transparent in the world, worsened by the 2010 earthquake and subsequent hurricanes. Here's an orphanage quiz. Is the main goal preserving birth families or selling kids into adopted families?
Live on Twitter and Twitch right now. Anybody who's watching me live on my Instagram, please jump over. The link is right down there at the bottom. It is pinned for you. So you could see, you could jump over here and join us. We're watching some video that you can't see on Instagram, only here on Twitch. So go ahead and jump down on that link below you. All right, and we're talking about some Haitian corruption with Tim Ballard, the Underground Railroad, and some of their involvement. We're trying to follow the money here. We're not saying anybody did anything now, are we? We're just asking a lot of questions and pointing out a lot of very interesting things with Lynn, Kenneth, Hacker. Everybody give me some kind of thumbs up or give me a sign if you have learned something so far tonight that you did not know before. I would really appreciate it if you did that. So a thumbs up or some kind of hey if you learned something tonight, because that always feels good if somebody did learn something that they may not have considered before, my friends. And that's what we like to do here. You have to think about new things. You can't just take it for granted that these people are necessarily good. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? What I'm talking about. All right, let's keep going.
If more donor
I'm trying to
assistance
talk
money
less
goes
during
to
the
helping
videos.
keep the child's family together than is spent to adopt the child out to a new family, then it is birth family focused. If the number of orphanage children returned to their birth parents exceeds the number placed with adoptive parents, then there's still no priority given to adoptions. If birth parents who are asked to legally relinquish a child are first offered financial assistance, food, education, healthcare, before signing over the child, then yes, still birth family focused. The Marty orphanage would not have come close to passing that test. Like the majority of Haiti orphanages, they were more about selling kids than restoring families. Marty's orphanage was established at the very beginning as a kid adoption outlet, and there's no sign that ever changed. Here's one story, one the Wall Street Journal called a surreal story, about a mother waving goodbye to her child as she was taken by its adoptive parent. The mother was a worker at a Utah-supported orphanage and would not have lacked the resources to support her daughter. Here are excerpts from the article. When David Aiken, an internet entrepreneur from Provo, Utah, traveled to Haiti last year to meet a girl he was in the process of adopting, he was shocked to find out that her mother worked at the orphanage. When he learned the mother was there, we thought, we can't adopt her. I couldn't imagine taking a child from her mother, he recalls. But the mother insisted. In the end, David was happy to take her. When he embarked for the airport with the daughter, her mom was smiling on the porch, waving, he recalled to the journalists. It was surreal. Here's the fundamental O.U.R. fallacy. Rescuing so-called child sex or labor slaves or adopting out relinquished children does not attack the root of the main problem, which is poverty. Most child sex workers, sex slaves as Ballard calls them, laborers, in Haiti they're called restavex, and relinquished children were not kidnapped. They're not slaves, even if that's what Ballard wants people to think. Poverty drives many parents worldwide to allow their children, mostly girls, to engage in prostitution, allow their children to engage in child labor such as agriculture, military, and housework, place their children in so-called orphanages for adoption. It takes far less money to keep a child in a poor family than the cost for it to go to an adoptive family. The international children's law and adoption expert, David Smolin, wrote a law review article titled Intercountry, which means across international borders, adoption as child trafficking. He wrote, to some, intercountry adoption in itself is more or less a form of child trafficking, as it involves the transfer of children from poor nations to rich nations in order to meet the demand of those in rich nations for children. Others view intercountry adoption as a beautiful act of compassion. Relinquishing parents often earn less than $2 a day. It could be argued that relatively small amounts of money might help keep the child with the birth family. As an ethical matter, it is perverse to spend thousands of dollars taking a child from the birth family when a much smaller sum would have kept the family intact.
And that right there is the exact point, right? When a much smaller amount would have kept that family intact. So the profits that are being made off of adoptions in Haiti are at issue. And Lynn Packer is very good at what he does. And, you never know what people are connected to. We have this film coming out that they're all pressing right now. And what people don't realize about something, and I want to show you real quick what I'm talking about here, is that this is still Hollywood, friends. Okay? I need you to understand something, and I need you to understand it now. This is still Hollywood. This symbolism is no different than when LeBron James, George Bush, Obama, the Pope, it's no different than when they use it. What are these guys connected to? Okay, look in the upper left-hand corner. It's the Eye of Horus. York Rite, Freemasonry. Right. Master of the Second Veil. Right there, right? Who puts their hand in their jacket like that? This is just something for you to think about. Protect yourselves. Full send. The truth set you free, set you free. In an age of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act.